Okay. Okay, members. I've been informed that there's no engineers available to take the call from poor Elle, who's trying her best in there. So we are going to have to start the meeting. There isn't a requirement for it to be recorded. So we'll have to start, and we will get a message when the recording catches up, hopefully, and presumably the live streaming. Very, very disappointing, but I'm sure we're on to it. Okay, let's start then. Bore da, my name is Councillor Cheryl Carlisle, and I'm the Chair of the Finance and Resources Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Can I welcome everyone to the meeting, which is a multi-location meeting. I'm going to leave out the big chunk about it being live streamed and recorded. Can I remind members that translation facilities are available? If you want to make use of this facility, please select the English language option on the microphone delegate unit if you're in the council chamber, and for those attending remotely by clicking on the audio settings tab and selecting English. We've now got a new section to do with translation. For those wishing to speak in the chamber, please indicate by raising your hand and turn on your microphone when it's your turn to speak. That's for those in the chamber. And for those online, to be able to hear the translation at all times, for those remote attendees wishing to speak, please use the yellow hand function. That's the new way to try and get around the translation problem. When I call your name to speak, at that point, please press the push to speak button. We will be keeping a list, a manual list of speakers. Again, not ideal. If you have a point of order, just press the push to speak button, please. Can I ask that committee members request to speak first, and once all committee members have had the opportunity to speak, the non-committee members will be given the opportunity to speak. In order to maintain your place in the speaker queue, when asking a question, please leave your microphone on until you've received a response and asked any supplementary questions. It would be helpful if members could ask all their questions in one go. Whilst I do not wish to stifle debate, can I remind members that any questions should be focused on the subject matter and to avoid repetition. For those attending remotely, please note that those in the chamber will be unable to use the chat facility. Remote attendees, if you do need to leave the meeting temporarily, please pop a message in the chat function. I expect everyone present and participating in this meeting to conduct themselves appropriately and be respectful to each other. That applies to members, officers, and members of the press or public attending. So before we go on to the agenda, I'd just like to start by formally on behalf of Conway members thanking Tesney Hadwin, our outgoing Head of Vulnerable Persons Service, who was also our interim Head of Children, Families and Safeguarding Service during the pandemic. She's given decades of dedicated service to Conway and has changed the lives of an awful lot of our residents. She's been a groundbreaking practitioner and she's held in high regard by all who've worked with her. And we managed to catch her for a surprise farewell on Friday evening, and she was genuinely surprised. So, Tesney, thank you for everything that you've done, and we wish you a long and happy retirement from all of us here in Conway. And also I'd like to welcome Jane Jones as our new Scrutiny Lead Officer. So look forward to many years of scrutiny with you, Jane. Okay, so we now go on to the agenda. We start with item 1, apologies for absence. Sally.
Just one apology from Rhinab Gareth, the Chief Executive.
Lovely, thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Have we any declarations, members? No. Excellent. Item 3, urgent matters, we haven't got any. Item 4, the minutes to approve and sign as a correct record minutes of the previous meeting that was held on the 5th of January 2026. If we could have a proposer and a set, Councillor Charlie and Councillor Gareth, if members would like to show. Deal. Anyone against? Any abstentions? No. Those are carried, members. Item 5, question to Cabinet members. We have none. Then we're going to move on to review the forward work programme, and Jane, our scrutiny lead officer, will provide any update we have. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. Before you is the Finance and Resources Forward Work Programme, together with the Combined Forward Work Programme. I'd just like to update you of 2 changes. The panel performance assessment report will be presented in June, and the Work Welsh scheme evaluation report has moved from April to September due to a change in reporting deadlines. That's it from me, Chair. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. And before I go to, we've got, I think, a hand up online. Before I go to that, we also have, we will be adding in a report on the finances of the Tiamawa site following requests from 5 local members. That will be going via a topic selection form to chairs and vice chairs. So that's an addition for this committee. I've got a hand up online. Councillor Gronway, good morning. Oh,
good morning.
Councillor
Thank you,
Ann.
Chair. Can you hear me?
We can indeed. Morning, Gronway.
Yeah, morning. I'm just looking at page 10 of the Forward Work Programme, which is today's meeting, and it's the Programme of Significant Projects dashboard. There are a couple of things I thought would have been on the dashboard that aren't, but one thing I think needs to be included, probably not for this meeting now, but a project report on the actual move to Coed Pell, because certainly the problems we're having continuously in every meeting can't continue. So we do need a project update on what is going to be done to resolve this project. And one thing that doesn't feature in the significant projects, which I'm surprised, is a report on the CCTV project, which was a significant amount of funding we won from. I think it was I forget which body, but that is a significant project that was struggling to deliver, and it's a key project that most of our community councils are signed up to. So I would like to see some comments from the officers on where we are with the CCTV project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gronway. Emma, did you want to come in on those 2, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gronway. The office accommodation and move to Coed Pell project is at end of project now, and that's why it's come off the dashboard. So an end of project report is coming to through democracy on that, and it will include it'll allude to some of the points you've raised and give the opportunity to scrutinise what's happening. I can't give you a date right now, but I will follow up on that and find out when it is coming through to scrutiny. The CCTV project, because it's under SPF, it reports separately under the SPF and grant funding reporting. So that's why it's not on the dashboard, because not all projects come on the dashboard. Only programmes and projects classed as significant, and the project, the CCTV project was classed as a normal size project, so that's why it's not reported on the dashboard, but it will get reported through shared prosperity funding updates to democracy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Emma, are you happy with that, Councillor Gronway?
Yeah, yes, I'm just surprised that obviously I presume officers are dealing, because that was a significant amount of money we won under the shared prosperity, and it was a project that was struggling to be delivered. I think it's now come under Katie, probably, is it? Katie's taken on that role. Thank you.
Okay, dear Councillor Gronway. Well, we'll circulate any answers to these questions to the members of FROSC. We'll get that circulated outside of the meeting. Thank you. Next speaker we've got is Councillor Ann online. Morning, Councillor Ann. Oh, press the push to speak button. There.
I have already.
Oh, well
Can you
done.
hear me now?
You're in, yes.
Yeah. It was just a delay, I think, there, Cheryl, in it and activating. Thanks for that. Two things for me, both about education. I think a number of months ago, we received a report, an external report from SIPFA in terms of school resources and funding allocations. And I'm surprised that it's not on our forward work programme. And I'd really ask for it to be brought forward. The second one is there is also another external report, and it's due in March, and it's from Eston. And again, it's on local authority support for school budgets. And I think this too is one for this committee to scrutinise in terms of learning for ourselves. So I just ask that they both be included, but particularly the SIPFA one. I think there's work that the schools budget forum wants to do that's dependent upon seeing that, and until it's gone through democracy, the forum cannot sort of have access to it. So really important that we don't delay on that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Anne. Amanda, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just to say that I'm fairly confident, Councillor Anne, that it's on the Education Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme, the SIPFA report. I can't comment on the second one, but the other one is, I think, on Education Scrutiny.
And why would that be when it's a finance report, Amanda?
Well, I guess because it's an education related report as well. I suppose this is, the reality of it is most things relate to finance. But finance and resources can't deal with absolutely everything. So I think in accordance with the scrutiny review that happened, I think my understanding was that more would be taken to the relevant service committee. So in that context, I think the decision was that the SIPFA report on schools would go to the education scrutiny.
Okay, thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Anne. Next, we've got Councillor Andrew online.
Thank you, Chair. I presume you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Oh. Oh gosh. Hang on, everybody.
We've had was formed.
Andrew, if you could just pause a minute. We've had some sort of system failure. Everything's gone off in the chamber. It has come back on now. If you could just hold for a minute.
Of course I can.
Okay, if you try and speak again now, please.
Okay. I was page 14. You can hear me?
It's very, very crackly. Really sorry. If we could somebody else try and just speak online? Maybe Councillor Anne, you just spoken. Could you try and see if?
Can you hear me? Sorry, I've got a bit of the throat. Can you hear me, Cheryl?
Oh yes.
Okay, all right, as long as you can. Okay.
Lovely, thank you, Councillor Andrew. Are you near your phone, or is something electrical?
Okay, just try it now. I've just turned the video link off. Is that any better?
A little bit. Okay, if you try again, thank you.
Okay, so just to help the engineers, I'd left the video on to see if it came back, because obviously all of us at home are not. You can't see us, and we can see you, but you can't see us. Presumably, that's correct.
Yeah, lucky you. Yes, we can see your. We can just see your name. We can just see your name.
I can hear my scruffiest clothing going, and the dog can watch as well. Yeah.
Good man.
So right, anyway, going back to 2019, and I remember well, we had some well-intentioned and people that wanted to join in, including Councillor Anne, into the allotment group in 2019. Since then, COVID got in the way, as it says in the reports. We have had no real meetings. I have tried now on 4 separate occasions. It can't be high on everybody's agenda, I know that, but it's very important for the well-being. It's very important for the education of young people, and it's a great family thing to do. We have got our allotments, basically half of the allotments are not used properly. We've got a lot of Section 106 money, so finance isn't a problem in various areas. So please, and I mentioned it to Mike, and Mike said he would do something, but please, can I work with Gareth on this one? And can we have an indication that can go forwards and he give us an officer to do this? Because it's important. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Andrew. We've still got real technical issues when you're speaking there. Is this one for topic selection, Councillor Mike, or did you want to come in? It was about a lot. We couldn't hear quite what the topic was. We heard.
Yeah, allotments. We have actually just started giving out some of the plots. I know I've had a letter off a resident thanking me because I met in St George's in Deganway, and I think 6 plots have been allocated there. But Andrew, I'm more than happy to have a discussion with you. It is something I'm quite passionate about, and I have got some ideas to take forward using 106 money, which is, I think, off the top of my head, for all allotments across the county, I think 17 to 19,000. So not a significant amount of money, but it's something I'm sure we could do. Something really positive with working with our allotmenteers. And
that'll go to E&P, I presume.
I can do if there's a topical form that goes in. Yeah, I'm more than happy to have it discussed there.
Lovely. So, Councillor Mike, if you can speak with Councillor Andrew outside of here, and then the two of you decide where it goes, and if it needs a topic selection, that'll come to chairs and vice chairs.
Okay, lovely.
Deal. Thank you, Councillor Andrew. Okay, next we've got Councillor Gareth in the chamber.
Oh, thank you. It just strays into the next report. Looking at the next report, the Mockdra Commerce Park project looks as if it's coming to an end next month. And I think there's been a bit of a typo underneath, because it says an update has been provided in September 26. I presume that means an update will be provided in 26. And if that's the case, should it be in the forward work programme?
Emma's here to
Apologies, it was meant to say an update was presented in September 25, and the end date needs to be moved forward on this one again, because that's not the correct end date at the moment.
Okay, so do we need something in the forward work programme to have an update on it, or is there nothing planned?
As far as I'm concerned, at the moment there is nothing planned, and I can't comment further on Mockdra Commerce Park, unfortunately.
Amanda, did you want to come in there, please?
Yeah, I guess perhaps if I can just say, my understanding from the last update was essentially, as and when there is anything relevant to update, then that will happen. But because it's unknown at the moment in that context, that's why there's nothing directly there for the forward work programme. But I think, I'm sure the monitoring officer can update. Perhaps when he's here, that's probably more appropriate, I would suggest.
Oh, sorry, I just thought...
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Something typed in that there would be an update in September.
Yeah, no, I think it was just a typo, yeah.
The typo's the other way, thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Gareth and Amanda. Well, I'm sure we do need something in the forward work programme for this, even if it's just a date. So we'll look at that outside of here. Councillor Paul, I presume that's the same thing you're going to...
Yeah, no, I was questioning Matt on this prior to this meeting, exactly as Gareth says, because it's on the dashboard. I wasn't happy that, again, Matt's response was it's not appropriate to ask scrutiny questions. But as I said, and Amanda said again today, this, I would call it the as and when strategy, which has been adopted from my perspective, and I think from residents' perspective, for 9 years on this debacle. So as and when we will report to you is not really acceptable. I know we're the defendant in this case, but in that situation, I think it's reasonable for councillors to use their agency to ask the question, well, have we got a court date? Have we got a date when an outcome is going to be achieved? Because as and when, as a strategy, I don't think is acceptable to our residents who want some resolution of this one way or the other.
Thank you, Paul. Kerry is standing in as monitoring officer today, so hot seat, Kerry.
Sadly, Matt's not with us today to give any kind of update, but my understanding is, due to the nature of the situation concerning that matter, that it isn't really something that we would want to be discussing at this point. I think from my discussion with Matt, there will be an update coming back when we have something to update members with, because obviously it's something that you're going to be very concerned about, but we're not in a position to update at this point, and we're not in a position to give you a date. When we have a date, when it would be appropriate to report back, you know, we'll be able to share that. But as of today, we're not in a position to give an indication when that might be, I'm afraid.
But that is my point in terms of any programme or project, to constantly be told
can I
we've
come
got
in?
nothing to report on is saying to us there is no progress.
So,
Councillor Julie, the leader, if you'd like to come in and answer that, that would be great. Thank you.
yeah, obviously I share the concerns that everybody has. This has gone on for a length of time, but as Kerry has just said, this is with legal proceedings currently, and we need to be careful in terms of obviously discussing specifics around this. It wouldn't make sense when you're putting a case together. But one of the issues we have, and I'm sure everyone's aware, in terms of waiting times with the courts, it's incredibly difficult to try and measure how long that's likely to be. And we've seen that across all of the courts, whether that's families, whether it's magistrates, crown courts, all the different courts. There is a considerable waiting time pool. So, you know, we can't sit here and say, yes, we'll definitely have a date, it will be by X, when in reality we're waiting on the courts and on the legal teams for both sides to come to an agreement. So yeah, a lot is beyond our control, and that's why it's not a case of trying to hide anything, not wanting to share information. Believe me, I want this to be done as much as anybody does, and the minute we're in a position to be able to share that, I can absolutely guarantee you that that will happen. But we can't dictate how long some of these things take and how long it will be before the courts come back to us. So there's nothing being hidden. It is just a case of process, and yes, it's incredibly frustrating. It takes as long as it does, but that's the world we live in and the judicial system that we have. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor June. Thank you for that, Councillor Paul. And thank you, Kerry, standing in for Matt in the hot seat. So, okay, thank you. Next speaker we've got...
Sorry, Chair, can I speak? Could I speak on this? Because
Yes,
I was waiting before
I was just going
non-committed members spoke. So just to make the points that it was a bad contract. Residents are really concerned that we're carrying on.
Councillor David, we can't discuss these sorts of... The monitoring officers just said that we can't discuss this, unfortunately. I know we all feel extremely passionately about this, and as the leader said...
Well, Councillor Julie Fallon was allowed to give her opinions on it, and my opinion is that it was a bad contract, and to take them...
Councillor Carr, I think we really need to...
Can you not interrupt me, please? I'm an elected county councillor. I don't want to be interrupted. You let Councillor Fallon speak to defend what's going on. I think residents are extremely concerned about the constant expense for solicitors and court action, and they want it brought to an end. And we can't have it brought to an end because we never discuss it. So, you know, I'm not very happy that I'm interrupted and that Julie Fallon, who's not even a member of this committee, is allowed to give that point of view. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Kerry, did you wish to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what I've said before. It's that there are potential ongoing legal proceedings in relation to this matter, and therefore we need to be extremely circumspect in what we are saying. Certainly in a meeting like this, and I would certainly reiterate what I've said before, is that obviously when there is information that we can share with members, that information will be shared, and until such times as we can do that, we're not in a position to update any further.
Thank you very much. I think that's all the speakers. Well, that's the liveliest forward work programme we've had for a little while, isn't it? So, members, could I have a proposer and a seconder to approve the forward work programme, please? Councillor Charlie. Anyone else? Councillor Chris, second. Could we have a show of hands, please, that we approve? Thank you. And anyone against? Any abstentions? No. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kerry. We now go on to item 7. These are reports by the Head of People and Performance on the following matters. The first one is the Programme and Significant Project Summary Dashboard. You'll find this on pages 32 to 54. Councillor Dilwyn, the Cabinet Member for Culture, Leisure and Governance Services, is going to introduce the report, and Emma Roberts, our Corporate Modernisation Manager, is going to present the report. Diolch, Councillor Dilwyn, online. Bore da. If you press your push to speak button.
Bore da, diolch cadeirydd. Yndyd, dwi'n falch iawn o weld yr adroddiad yma yn dod ymlaen. Na i ddim mynd i ymelaethu dim arni, mae Emma hefo chi yn y swyddfa, ac os gai, na i trosglwyddo'r hawena i Emma Roberts, ac mi fydda i mas bydd i angen eto. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Councillor Dilwyn. Morning, Emma. Second time.
Good morning. Okay, thank you, Councillor Dilwyn. As noted, we're here to present the Programmes and Significant Projects Dashboard for the last quarter. So the report provides a summary of the progress made in the last 3 months on all the programmes and significant projects that are currently running within the Council. The summary is provided in the form of the dashboard, which not only provides the progress updates, but also the red, amber, green, RAG status of various aspects of each programme and project, including issues and risks. If we move over to the Appendix 1, which is the dashboard itself, I will provide a short overview of the pie charts and graphs included. I don't intend to go through the updates on each programme significant project on the summary document, as all the programme and project managers are in attendance and welcome any questions from members on anything in particular. So in terms of the position of all the 15 programmes and significant projects, half have an overall amber status and half are green. This is the same as the last quarter. If we move to the second page of the dashboard, in terms of the budget, 2/3 of the programmes and projects are within their original capital budget assigned, and where the other third are running over, this is still within the budget tolerance for the programme or project. In terms of the schedule, over half are on schedule to complete as per the original project plan. Those running over original schedule have provided a satisfactory explanation within the summary document and are being closely monitored by their boards. With regards to the issue status, the majority of programmes and significant projects have issues which are classed at a medium or high status, but this is within the context of the programme or project itself. Explanations of these issues are provided within the summary document. In terms of the risk status, over half have risks on their risk log where the residual risk is moderate or above, but this is still again within the context of the programme or project itself, and actions are in place to mitigate all of these risks. As a reminder, the committee is welcome to discuss any of the programmes or projects listed in more detail and do a deep dive as such by putting forward a topic selection form and requesting a report in detail on that programme or significant project at a future meeting and adding this to the forward work programme. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Emma. Just a quick point on the report. Could we possibly have the Cabinet member's name in the comments? So, yes, in future. That would be great. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, the first speaker we've got is Councillor Gromway online.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Just going through the list of projects, one that does cause me, well, a question on the project is the Conway Civic Hall. Cabinet agreed to put the Civic Hall back on the market some months ago. The latest I've been made aware is that the officers are still terminating the lease with Nautical Point, from what I understand, and that planners are looking at reviewing the planning requirements for the Civic Hall. I can't understand, when this building is standing empty and deteriorating as we look at it, that it's taking far longer than I would have thought to come to market. I know local members were opposed to elements of the way it was going to be marketed, but can somebody give an update on where we are with the Conway Civic project?
Thank you, Councillor Cromley. I think the leader, Councillor Julie's going to come in on that. Thank you, Councillor Julie.
Hi, good morning. Councillor Sharon Dolman is not here today, so she did send me an update just to say that, yes, the work is ongoing in terms of the termination of the contract that did exist with Nautical Point, and the marketing pack with the revised planning brief will be going out by the end of February. So that's where we're up to. And then obviously we'll see what happens as a result of that. But things are moving forward. I don't know if there is anyone here from the team. Oh,
Katie, lovely.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, Katie.
Borodar, Roshane is online if anyone wants any more detail.
Excellent. Roshane, could you just pop? Lovely, thanks. Good morning. Thank you for coming in.
We've been bringing we needed to bring the agreement for lease to an end before we could do the marketing. So the notices were only sent out last week by DWF. And then obviously I just need to get the marketing details up to speed because it's a new offering. So they need amending and obviously translation, etc. But in line with what Councillor Sharon said, they'll be out. It will be back on the market by the end of the month at the latest.
If I can just come back, one of the recommendations in the cabinet report was that there would be some work done to the exterior of the building in the meantime, because it does look an eyesore, and it still looks an eyesore on the outside of the building. Can this be looked into? Because that was the recommendation that was approved by cabinet. It looks like a bomb site, basically, on the outside. The front of the building is atrocious.
The money that was allocated was to do some work on the roof, but you'd need to speak to facilities about the extent of that work.
Okay, Councillor Gromway.
Well, facilities, that's not my role to talk to facilities. The cabinet approved for some work to be carried out to the building to make it look, to protect the condition of it. And certainly, as far as the town council is concerned, which I'm a member of, we've got the summer season starting and the building looks atrocious from the outside.
As I said, the money's to fix the roof.
Councillor Sharon has just popped up online. Here we are, Councillor Sharon. Thank you for that. Thanks, Roshane. I think Councillor Sharon's going to come in now. Press your push to speak button. Thanks.
Sorry, I have just joined, so I didn't hear the question. I've been on a doctor's appointment. So if the question could be repeated, please.
Yeah, the question was, Sharon, that following the cabinet resolution, there was concern raised in that meeting about the outward appearance of the Civic Hall in Conway. You're probably aware that looking from the high street, the building looks in a terrible condition for visitors and for the residents, and it really does need tidying up. So we're not talking about big money, we're just talking about tidying up the entrance door and all the rubbish that's accumulating around that.
Press your push to speak again, Councillor Sharon. Diolch.
Sorry, I usually turn up in person, so I'm not used to this. Thank you for the question, Councillor Gromway. The money that was agreed to be spent on the Civic Hall was to be spent on the roof. There wasn't any allocation for anything else as far as I am aware. But I will take your question. I will make further inquiries and I'll come back to you.
Okay, Councillor Gronwy, you happy with that? Councillor Sharon will look into it, speak to you outside.
I'll have to accept that, but certainly it can't be left in the state it is now with the summer season coming upon us.
Thank you. Councillor Sean in the chamber, was that on the same matter? Councillor Paul, are you okay if Sean, yes, if we jump the queue? Sorry, everybody watching. Councillor Sean.
Thank you for letting me talk. Yeah, I do understand that the money allocated, I'm sure, by the Cabinet was for the roof and repairs, that essential. But I've also been in a meeting, but I have no idea which meeting it was, where they did discuss the doors and they said there would be tidy up at least the doors and any, because there was a broken window there, and sort out all the old posters and things, because everyone that visits Conway crosses that zebra crossing straight at those doors. And we've got Telford 200 coming up in the summer, and it is an absolute eyesore, and it's not a hard ask to just sort out the front doors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sean. Are you happy if you take that back, Councillor Sharon?
Yep, very happy with that, and I'll come back to both Gronwy and Sian with the response. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much. Next, we've got Councillor Paul in the chamber, then Councillor Anne online.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just say, in starting my question on this programmes and dashboards, really to commend a whole range of officers who have provided written, detailed answers to my specific questions. John, Tim, Roshane, Katie. That's been really helpful, and I can see much more detail from those responses on the progress. And I do wonder, I know the dashboard's the dashboard, but I think some of that information on future dashboards would be really helpful, because it really does clarify the situation. The one area, again, Fran Lewis was very good and got back to me on, was on the resilience programme, where I was specifically, and this I've questioned previously on this, the area within the resilience programme which deals with customer-focused services and support. And Charlie will know, because when he was leader very early on in my time as a councillor, I remember having meetings with him about this. And this really builds upon, the Welsh Government encouragement, let's put it that way. I don't think it's a direction, but encouragement to adopt a sort of no wrong door approach for our customers. And I am still not persuaded, I'm not saying we haven't made progress, but I'm still not persuaded we've made significant enough progress, particularly for some of our most vulnerable customers and particularly for our digitally challenged customers. Now, I know Amanda at one point was leading on this customer-focused support, but I really want to understand the actions we're taking to engage with these customers that have the greatest difficulty. And these customers anyway, often are vulnerable people, have many issues of daily living and report to me deep frustration at finding their way around the system. And it seems to me we're still not ensuring consistent, proactive communication with some of these residents. And I suspect it's because at a leadership level, we're still not fully understanding the deep nature of these frustrations. I think our frontline staff because they deal with it, understand the frustrations, and even some of the frontline staff tell me of their frustrations with the systems that we presently have in place. And so I don't know, but if I was in the strategic leadership, I would be getting some focus groups with the people with the biggest frustrations, because I think you'd learn a lot from them. And I think also you'd learn, having had those groups, you would learn from your frontline staff as well, because I think those frontline, the residents would be confirming with the frontline staff some of the obstacles to get their questions answers, to speak to the right person and make progress. So can we just have a bit of information of what's actually been done to improve customer focus?
Who's going to come in on this for Councillor Paul, please?
Yeah, I'll come in if I may. I think it's an absolutely valid point, Councillor Paul, and I think under the resilience plan there is the clear intention, obviously, to focus on this as a work stream, because we recognise that there's work to be done on that, and in just specifically in terms of your point about focus groups, I think my understanding, Fran might say more, but I think my understanding is that we do intend to undertake engagement groups as part of the corporate plan consultation. So I'm sure that will pick up on some of that. But I think going back to the customer focus point, it's something we need to, as you say, crystallise our thinking and understanding on. I think at the moment, probably my observation is that we need to, as you say, have that sort of better corporate perspective in terms of our approach, because at the moment it's driven predominantly through the services, as it were, and we need to sort of bring that together in a coordinated and corporate focus. And I think obviously that's the intention then of the work stream in the resilience plan, because of recognition of us needing to do that. So we are going to be taking it forward. I appreciate it's probably not been done with the pace that you might have hoped previously, but it's certainly in the plans now, as it were.
You content, Councillor Paul?
Well, I'll ask the question again if next time it comes up.
Okay.
Progress we've made.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Councillor Anne online. Councillor Anne.
Thanks, Chair. And I think I need to start off this session with declaring an interest. It didn't occur to me when you were asking earlier, but in this report, there's reference to a housing project in Dogwalchi. So I've got a personal interest in that. So just like to make that clear. And before I come back to that, just a couple of quick questions is, should the waste transfer station project and the Plasandrea regeneration project in Clynroost not be featured in this dashboard is sort of one sort of question I would ask. And then the second thing I'd maybe, and this is just a comment really, when I've looked at all of the reports and looked at it from a public perspective, it's not entirely clear in a number of the reports on the dashboard what the actual project is about. So that's not the case in all of them. So I would just ask at the beginning, at somewhere within this report, future reports, if we could just have a sort of pencil sort of sketch, if you like, of what the project is aiming at. That would be really useful. Sometimes for us as councillors, because I must admit there's a project called the Mosaic Implementation Project, and although I've read it, I haven't really a clue as to what the detail of it is. So I think it would be useful for members as well. So that's just a couple of easy sort of questions. And then the sort of more specific question I'd like to ask is around page 42. Which references, it's only a couple of lines, but it's the housing project in Dogwalchi, which is a council-owned site. I have to say I was a bit sort of bemused by the comments really, because it's actually saying that, this is ready to go, and on the basis of this, I had a look and discovered that, in fact, there's a planning application gone in for this just on Friday, which I thought was really good timing. But as far as I'm concerned, the consultation process hasn't finished. And yet, when I look at what's in the planning application, it basically says it has finished. And apart from a minor tweak, all of the feedback that I raised, nobody has come back to me on. So I'm just really concerned about our process here, because if the consultation process is to be meaningful and effective, there has to be a closed loop on it, and that doesn't seem to be the case in this instance. And then the other question I'd just like to raise on this, I'm really concerned about what's called the secured by gold standard, secured by design gold standards, because this has had an impact on residents' significant feedback about this particular project. And it doesn't appear that whoever makes the decision in terms of the secured by design gold standard isn't listening to feedback or engaging with the public. And secondly, neither is the proposed developer here. So I'm just concerned that this has reached us within this two-line thing, and yet the consultation process, the loop hasn't been closed, and I haven't had any sort of feedback about the points that I raised. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Anne, for those questions. The first one, the update, the waste transfer in the Plas and Dre, that was one of my questions as well. I would have expected to see that here. So if you want to answer that one first, Emma, and then I think Kate is going to deal with the rest. So
yes, I will go back on both of those particular projects and check what they're classed as, and if they do come out as significant, I will add them to the dashboard. It was probably be an oversight for the fact that maybe they had been classed as a normal sized project, and they probably would now have reached the level of a significant project. So I will check that, and if they do meet the criteria, I will add them to the dashboard.
Thank you, because they were, when it was Conway Opportunities Board, they were significant then, so I can't understand why it hasn't translated over to this, why it hasn't translated over into this report, because clearly the whole idea of this was that all the projects that were of major interest, and obviously Plas and Dre is one, that it would come over to this committee. There was a lot of toing and froing about that, so hopefully we can get everything in now that's supposed to be in. So thanks. Thank you.
And maybe, Chair, could Emma give some feedback on the sort of descriptors for the project? You know, the point I'm making about sometimes to both members and certainly to the public, it's not particularly clear what these projects are delivering for the people of Conway.
Yes, we can definitely include that. I'll add that in.
Thanks, Emma.
Thanks, Emma. Okay, Katie, you're going to deal with the rest of them. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So I think in terms of the note, there is a lag in terms of the reporting here, and then when it gets to the committee, so I can see that in this report it did give a date that was a scheme was meant to go into planning, and it was later in. Obviously, Councillor Allen, we've spoken at length around this scheme. We have listened to those comments in terms of the actual detail of the planning and the submission of planning. And the points you raised about the actual planning application, that is for the RSL. So I will need to take those comments out of here and understand what didn't get picked up in terms of your feedback on those issues. In terms of some of the broader ones, I think when you spoke with myself and Anna, and Anna's online as well if we need any more detail, it was more around feedback on the earlier consultation going forward in future, but also maybe the allocation and some other things around how we'll make best use of these homes, make sure they're for local people. So a lot of that, that doesn't end the work we're looking at in terms of it going into planning. And the secure by design, again, that is something on a broader level. I don't think it would have stopped the planning submission, but it's certainly something we're picking up in terms of that quality standard of secure by design, actually the match across with connectivity and what we've discussed around alleyways and footpaths which connect communities but also can be deemed a risk, and how we balance off those unintended consequences of one or the other. So I've picked that up with the team, so we are looking at that as well, and certainly not ruling out the opportunity for the footpath and certainly the benefit that you see from linking those communities.
Dear Katie, did you want to come back, Councillor Anne?
Yeah, no, I mean, I must recognise and want to recognise I've had significant discussions with Katie and she's been very responsive. The concern I'm really just vocalising here, rather than going into some of the detail that Katie's touched upon, is the fact that the RSL has obviously started a consultation process but hasn't finished it with the community, and yet has actually therefore bypassed that now. And I think the council and our council officers have potentially got a role perhaps in, I don't know, in perhaps prodding them and ensuring that that process is closed, because it really was a surprise to me to discover this comment on this report, that the consultation, as far as I was concerned, had yet to be concluded, because nobody has come back to me definitively, and yet the application has been submitted as though everything is a done deal, and that's just a worry in terms of us managing the process as part of being key stakeholders, both the officers and indeed myself as a ward member. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Anne. Before we go to the next two speakers, just to let you know that we are now recording. It's not live streaming as yet, but thank you to Al and everybody that's helping out behind the scenes. This can't go on. So, okay. Next, we've got Councillor Gareth in the chamber, then Councillor Cathy online after that. Councillor Gareth.
Yeah, thanks. It was just really a question on the presentation of the report, and it links back to the forward work programme when we touched on the Mockdra Commerce Park, and looking at the report, the end date is next month, and maybe if we're not clear if a project has got an end date, maybe we just put unknown or something around that. But I also noticed that there's a number of projects where the end date has passed. So I'm just wondering around are we confident that all those end dates are correct where it's passed? To all intents and purposes, the project is actually finished. And I know on one of them, it was just, we were a little bit behind with being able to find the right staff and appointing staff, and that was all in hand. And, because to my mind, the end dates are really important when you first look at it. And do we review the end dates? And, there is slippage in projects and things like that. But for anybody looking at this, we probably need to be able to see where there's been slippage and now really where is the end date? When's it anticipated to finish? Thank you.
Dear Councillor Gareth. Emma?
In terms of definitely, you're right with the Mockdra on that. Well, that is incorrect. But the rest ones that are the social care ones where the end date has passed, yes, they are coming to a close, and there is an aim for the end of project report to come through democracy in the future. So that will all move through, and they will come off the dashboard because they have come to an end, and the end of project report will come through. So the rest are correct, and the end of project reports will go on the forward work programme and come through the committee. And I will ensure from now on that the end dates you're talking about are reflected correctly.
It's okay. Yeah, it's just for clarity when you look at it quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you. Councillor Cathy online. Morning, Councillor Cathy. Oh, press your push to speak button. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah, yes, can hear you. Thank you.
Confusing. Thank you. Just to echo Councillor Anne, I obviously am a fellow councillor in Pembermouth Ward covering Drigavulchi, so perhaps I should have declared an interest in that section of this particular project. I'd also like to echo Councillor Anne. We were both at a meeting with the RSL. We both raised similar issues, and it certainly looks as though neither of us have had a response. So I completely agree that to me that isn't a closed loop now. Separately, I just wanted to thank Katie. There was a housing SPR at which I raised some comments a little while ago, and she's already got back to me to say they're being all taken into account. So thank you for your responsiveness on that one. I wanted to go on and ask, how can projects be coming up to an end date and an official close if they still have red issues going on? So it's a shame to me to see the fabulous Silver Gardens project with issues on red that relate to recruitment. And we know that recruitment in social care is a huge, huge issue. And this has been on red for a little while. Emma has just said that we are going to close down some of our social care projects as they come to an end date. But what are we going to do with ongoing red in issues such as recruitment? Thank you.
Who's going to take this, please? More of an HR question than a social care question. So, diolch, Councillor Cathy.
Diolch yn fawr, bore da. Just on the Silver Gardens recruitment, we took this to the programme board, who agreed we would close the project element, but we have ongoing operational meetings each month to look at how the recruitment is going. We are 9 whole-time equivalents short, so the desire was to run the programme to closure for all 3 young people. Once the 3 young people have moved in, we've satisfactorily and successfully moved in 2 out of 3 of them, and we're working very hard, and the team is working with the 3rd in his current location to get to know him, shadow his activities, and so there is a very clear plan of activities moving forward.
Excellent. It's been a wonderful piece of work. That has made such a difference, hasn't it, to those lives? Amazing. So thank you very much for that. You happy with that, Councillor Cathy? Lovely. Thank you very much. Next we've got Councillor Dilwyn online. Press your push to speak.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Just to thank Emma really for all the work she's done. We're getting this report together, and also all the other officers that are linked in to supporting this report. Thanks for all the comments that have been made today, and I've made notes of them, and the one I think that stands out really is the fact that, and I think it was Councillor Anne and yourself, Chair, mentioned it, that Plaster Drain waste transfer were not a good, and I'm sure Emma will look into this. Diolch yn fawr, Emma. Thanks for that, Chair.
Diolch, Councillor Dilwyn. Emma wants to come back in there.
Yes, I have had a look through in the meantime, and waste transfer and Plasandra sit under the environmental infrastructure programme. So what we're going to do now is, in terms of the reporting on both of them, within the environmental infrastructure programme summary update, we'll make both of those more explicit and give more of a wider update on both of those projects. So they'll stand out of that area, but they are under there. That's how they've become encompassed. But we'll give more detail on both of those projects going forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that, because yes, there is other projects, aren't there? There's the RSPB bridges, things like that, that used to be included in the Conway Ups board, which have disappeared from here. Councillor Mike, did you want to just come in quickly there?
Yeah, thank you.
For that.
In fact, we had a meeting last Friday and introduced Councillor Chris as the Finance and Resources... Economy in Place representative. And we did talk... So basically, the way that format goes is that we will pick... we have oversight of all projects, including, as you say, the waste transfer and Plasandra. And then, because of timescales, we usually choose 2, Gwyn, two projects, and then we have a real deep dive into them and see how they're going. One was Sappers Bridge on Friday, which I was absolutely blown away with, in the fact that, I'm sorry I'm digressing, but I have to say it, the Sappers Bridge, I mean, designed by Gwyn's team, designed in Conway, and most of the material that we're using for Sappers Bridge, most of that material has been procured from North Wales. Gwyn's nodding there. So amazing project, something that I've said that I want to take forward and share with you guys. And more than happy, you know, to share whatever, you know, whichever way Emma says that we can get, you know, the reporting through to Scrutiny. But yeah, it really, Councillor Hannah Fleet was on it, and she really misses that board. It's real good. It was a good meeting, Chris. I think you'd agree.
Excellent, thank you. I think the message coming over loud and clear is we want more information. That it needs to be fuller coverage of these topics. it, as I said before, it took a bit of a tussle to get this report to come to this committee and replace the previous Conway Ops Board, so a much fuller presentation would be really good. My question is, before we go to the vote, does this dashboard go to the Resilience Board? It forms part of the Resilience Board, does it? No.
No, this doesn't get reported to the Resilience Board because the Resilience Board is for the Resilience Programme, which has very specific projects and tasks underneath it. And as you can see in the dashboard, the Resilience Programme reports separately. This SLT, Cabinet and FROSC, Finance and Resources Overview and Scrutiny Committee, are the only boards that sit above and review all programmes and significant projects that report under the corporate plan.
Right, okay.
So those three processes have replaced the Conway Opportunities Board. The Resilience Programme is a separate programme which reports on the dashboard, and it's got its own projects and tasks listed underneath, which are listed on the dashboard.
I would have thought there'd have been a real crossover there, because if some projects aren't performing, when we're looking with the resilience and the transformation, anyway, we'll see how that, how it comes through in the fullness of time. We've got another, before we go to the vote, we've got another hand up. Councillor Cathy online. Is that a new hand? Yes?
Yeah, that's a new hand, Chair. Have you pressed all the right buttons to speak?
I have.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned. I used to sit on the Climate Challenge Programme Board, and I see that is amber across every measure. We don't automatically see, I don't believe, we automatically see reports, minutes, etc. Do they come to Economy and Place? I haven't been aware of a meeting of the Climate Challenge Programme Board that has been reported back for quite a while.
Who's going to take that one?
I can say that the minutes of programmes and projects don't come back to scrutiny committees. As I said, I think I can pass over to Councillor Mike, because we are proposing that we do bring a report forward around climate challenge and what's happening around that. But as I previously said, if we want to do more of a deep dive, more of a review at scrutiny of different programmes and projects, please ask for that topic selection form and we will bring it forward.
Thanks,
Lovely.
Emma.
Thanks, Emma. Thank
First
you.
hospital pass of the meeting, Mike.
Thank you, Emma. I've got it with both arms. It's an interesting board, this one, where there's no funding, so it's basically all grant driven. I've got issues with the supply chain, because if you start looking at the figures of carbon that are being released with the supply chain, we're missing our targets. But if you drill down into Conway, roughly, I think it's about 19% decrease in our carbon emissions in what we do. So, and I think we need, I think, well, I'm going to say yes, I think we can bring that forward, for further scrutiny. But I do have some concerns with this, and I think amber's appropriate, but I think when it comes to resource, I'd probably want to query that, because there's no actual money going in, and we're saying we're going to be net zero by 2030. I'm really struggling with that. Some amazing projects going on, so it is good for driving projects, but I think really I need to have an honest look at that. Is what I'd say. I don't know. I think if Geraint's online, I don't know if he'd want to add anything further, but yeah, it's something that I really want to raise. So there's a couple of issues there, and I'm more than happy to raise them issues.
Thank you, Councillor Mike. Have we got Geraint online? Yes, there. Morning, Geraint.
Good morning. Yes, so the Climate Challenge Board, as I think Mike said, most of what I would say, it's not funded through the authority. There's no budget for it. We're using grant money wherever we can, making great progress on the things that we can control, and the issue of those that we can't, obviously, it will need others to step up for that, but happy to bring a report forward if necessary.
Thank you very much for that, Geraint. Yes, I think in terms of resources, there's a growing feeling amongst members, isn't there, that net zero by 2030, that can't be put ahead of social care education, can't be done. So if it needs additional resources, it can't be done. But that's a conversation for another day and not for this now. So,
yeah, thank you. I'd really appreciate an update as discussed. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. So you're going to be very busy then, Emma? Yes. Fine, thank you. Well, that is all the speakers. We're now going to, have we got a proposer and a seconder? And have we got any recommendations in terms of, obviously lots of you have said fuller information. Would anyone like to word a recommendation to go forward with this, with the proposal? Anyone? You're all very shy this morning. We're not going to get a proposer. Councillor Cathy. And Councillor Garrett.
Yeah,
Councillor
well,
Cathy.
I don't actually want to steal my fellow councillor's thunder, but I thought Anne put it really well, and I expected Anne to put a hand up. It's basically, yeah, a bit more detail in each report, covering reports that appear to be missing, and also in the explanation stating what the benefit of that project is, what it is actually. I mean, so Mosaic, I know what that is because I was on the transformation meetings when I was a cabinet member, but you know, Mosaic is used in a different sense in social care as well, internal to Conwy, so that could be quite confusing. So I think the recommendation is, can we have a clear explanation of the project, inclusion of all the projects that should be included, and a fuller description of where we are.
Excellent, thank you, Councillor Cathy. Councillor Gareth, are you happy to second that, or did you have something to add? Or
yeah, it's very similar to what I was going to say. I was going to say actually that I'm sure Emma's actually made a note of all the points and dates and everything there, and I was happy that she'd take that forward, but happy to second the proposal. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, members. A really good debate. Okay, could we open the vote, please? If everyone's voted, could we close the vote, please? That's carried unanimously. Okay, thank you very much. You have no abstentions, no refusals. Okay, thank you for that, and thanks to the officers, everyone present, heads of service as well. Excellent debate. We now move on to the next agenda item, which is the Employment Monitoring Report 2024-2025, which is pages 55 to 119. Councillor Hannah Fleet, Cabinet Member for Integrated Adult Services and HR, is going to introduce the report, and Fran Lewis, Head of People and Performance, is going to present the report. So, morning, Councillor Hannah, if you'd like to present.
Thank you, Chair.
Introduce.
So it's my pleasure to introduce the Employment Monitoring Report for 24-25. This report presents workforce trends data and key areas of focus, which highlight areas that we are or will be focusing on based on what the data tells us. There's a lot of data in the report, and together with feedback from staff and our wider community, local and national research, action plans such as the Welsh Government's Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan and the LGBTQ+ Action Plan for Wales, this information forms an important part of our evidence base. It guides our work to make Conwy a fair, accessible and inclusive place for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Fran?
Bore da pawb. Good morning. Diolch, Councillor Hannah. If I could take members straight to Appendix 1, please, which is the at-a-glance dashboard. Very grateful to Josh Cripps for pulling this together. As Councillor Hannah said, there's a huge amount of data within this report, so we hope this at-a-glance approach will help members with their scrutiny. Before I get going, I just wanted to clarify one thing with members, because we hear a lot the reference about people with protected characteristics. And just to clarify in terms of that term, that we all have protected characteristics. In fact, we all have 5 of the 9 protected characteristics. We all have an age, a sex, a race, a belief, and a sexual orientation. Some of us have even more protected characteristics. We may have a disability, or we may, as we age, acquire a disability. Some of us here may be married or in a civil partnership. Some of us here may be pregnant or may have been protected through pregnancy at an earlier time in our lives. And some of us may be going through or have undergone gender reassignment. So when we're talking about protected characteristics, we're talking about our family, our friends, our colleagues, and our communities. We're talking about all of us. Moving on to the at-a-glance employment monitoring report then. First thing I want to point out is that we're really delighted that there has been an increase in the level of equality monitoring data that we hold. This remains a challenge for us, and absolutely every member of staff has the right to say that they would rather not say. But you can see from the at-a-glance that in 2024 we sent out a questionnaire asking staff to update their equality monitoring information, and that has helped us with our data. As more and more new members of staff join the authority, we are getting greater clarity on equality monitoring data, but this is something that we are still working on, and you'll see as we go through the dash that there are some areas of data where we still have significant gaps, and for context that does impact on our analysis of the data. Moving on then, in terms of our workforce profiles, the pie charts here show how Conway's workforce is changing over time. It's fairly self-explanatory in terms of what the age of our workforce was back in 2017 and what it was in 2025. So reasonably stable in that sense. And we are seeing an increase in some data that we hold on people who have a disability. Interestingly, moving on then to ethnicity, it's fantastic to see the diversity within the authority, that we have over 35 nationalities across our workforce. However, as we come on to the areas of action, we know there is a lot more that we need to be doing in terms of addressing the barriers to recruitment, particularly for people with a disability and applicants from ethnic minorities. Moving on again then, in terms of our data, in terms of sex, we are and always have been really a predominantly female workforce. You can see the split there. And in terms of sexual orientation, this is an area we still need to work on. We now hold 59% of data for staff, but obviously we would like to get a fuller picture, including just getting responses from staff if they would prefer not to say. And likewise, the same for our data in terms of gender reassignment. As of March 2017, we only had 26% of data. This has increased to 58%, but we would like to get a much fuller picture. So within the actual employment monitoring report, there's a huge amount of data, and the question we really need to ask is so what? Of course, this is a statutory requirement to collect this data, but data is only of use if we're doing something with it and using it to improve.
So we've highlighted there in terms of recruitment that this remains an area of focus for us. We're currently reviewing our recruitment and selection policy. We've done a huge amount of work here, but our focus now is looking at it through an accessibility and inclusivity lens to make sure that we remove barriers for everyone. You can see the chart below that Josh has pulled together in terms of the percentage of applicants appointed by protected characteristic. And I just need to point out there is one chart key missing, and that's the green line that refers to LGBTQ+. So again, what our concern is here and where we're working on in a positive way is addressing the disparity of appointments in terms of people with a disability and ethnic minority applicants. Moving on to the next slide, focusing on training. This is really fundamental to us as an organisation in terms of our learning and understanding about inclusivity. And we are looking to improve completion rates in terms of the learner essential diversity inclusion modules. But that's not the only way that we want our workforce and our elected members to learn. Completing an e-learning module is not the way that we are going to improve inclusivity across this authority. It's about regular talking and learning on our own personal curiosity to learn more. It's great to see that our in-person training on inclusivity has actually started this morning in the training room. So really looking forward to taking part in that myself and encouraging staff to sign up to the various inclusive Conway training that's going on in February and March. In terms of attendance management, our priority at the moment is to ensure that we are focusing on the prevention of harassment. We have reviewed our anti-harassment at work policy, and we're doing more to simplify that and make sure that ultimately staff are supported to come forward with any concerns that they may have and know that they will be supported, but also in terms of our employment responsibility that we are making sure that we are doing utmost to prevent harassment taking place in the first place. Finally, in terms of leavers, key areas of focus for us is we have now digitised our exit interview process. It's taken a while to do that, but I'm delighted that that data is now starting to come through. That's really important for us in terms of having more data analysis in terms of the insights from staff and the reasons why they leave the authority. So just moving to the last slide in terms of looking forward, as I said, we're really focused on, so what do we do with this data? Our priority is to increase the levels of data that we hold, to make sure that we are being supportive and encouraging engagement routes, making sure that we do our utmost through our 2 projects to remove the barriers to recruitment, focusing on anti-harassment, really key area focusing on inclusion and general learning across the workforce. And as I said, looking at that data for why staff leave the authority. So that's a whistle-stop tour through a very comprehensive, very detailed report. And as I said, I'm really grateful for the work that Josh and the team have done to pull together a very complicated report and to simplify it in such a great way. So diolch, Josh.
Thank you very much for that, Fran, and thank you for all your work on this, Josh. Just the same comment as I made before, Fran, if we could have the Cabinet members' names on the comments, it'd be really helpful in the reports. Yeah, lovely, thanks. Okay, we've got our first speaker, I think, is Councillor Gromway online. Did you have your hand up there, Gromway? Oh, press your push to speak. Oh, you have, and it's not
I-
work. There. It's
Yeah.
okay. Go on. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to reconnect because my connection went, so I was pressing every button on the screen. So that's probably why I was down to speak. But certainly, seeing as I am speaking, I was just looking at page 72, which is the table 2 on the number of casual workers, and I still question the amount of casual workers that we engage and the cost effectiveness of that. Obviously, that are on cost with casual workers as well. So, is this a trend that we are trying to reduce, or is there specific reasons why we need to employ it? Especially looking at education, 971 in education, that is a significant number. Just an explanation on that, if you could.
Diolch, Councillor Gronwy. Fran?
Yeah, absolutely. Deal, Councillor Gronwy. Casual workers are used on an as and when basis. So it's always this kind of slightly confusing area. Then, of course, we go through a fair and transparent recruitment process in order to employ casual workers and bring them on the books, so to speak. But they can stay on our books as members of staff and not actually be used that often as casual workers. So just clarifying that number may look large, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are being used day in, day out. And yes, it is a drive for us to increase the number of casual workers as a way of reducing our reliance on agency. So that has been an active campaign, but just want to clarify that doesn't mean they're all working day in, day out. And particularly in relation to your reference to education, that refers to schools being able to access supply staff, as well as agency.
Thank you both. Next, we've got Councillor Charlie in the chamber.
Yeah, thanks for the report, Fran. Just referring to page 64, it talks about 4.5% of people from an ethnic minority were appointed compared to a baseline of 13.4 of applicants appointed overall. So is that you're 3 times more likely to be appointed? And then on page 92, it refers to the work we're doing. You're less likely to be shortlisted and you're less likely to be employed. There's been a lot of research on that in the medical field about anonymising applications. It's proven that makes a substantial difference. Is that the kind of thing we're looking at? Because it talks about the work we're doing to understand the journey, but not what we are physically doing as the employers to actually remove that bias, either conscious or unconscious. So just maybe a bit more detail around that, please.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Charlie. Yes, you're absolutely correct in your analysis, and that's why in terms of when we move on to the next report, in terms of the Inclusive Conwy annual report, they have been our 2 areas of focus. So we have 2 specific projects around recruitment. The first, both of which I should add are grant funded. We've been very fortunate to get grant funding for both projects. The first is called our Impact Project, which is working with Cardiff University to really look at the barriers to employment for people with a learning disability, and the outcomes of that project should be with us by September. The second project, where we were successful in gaining 12 months SPF grant funding, is to specifically look at the barriers to recruitment and appointments in terms of people from ethnic minority backgrounds. So that's looking at it from the perspective of our business process. Are there issues there? But also, as you've quite rightly talked about, is bias. Either conscious or unconscious. So we're hoping that the feedback from the SPF project will be coming to us at the end of March, and that's been a really powerful area of work, of working with local communities, with people from ethnic minority heritage, to understand from their perspective what more can Conwy do. Alongside that, as I mentioned before, it's absolutely paramount that we focus on upskilling and educating our workforce around the importance of inclusion and equity, which obviously is about making sure everyone has the appropriate reasonable adjustment to have a fair chance at opportunities. So really, really important two areas of work that we're focused on at the moment.
You can thank Councillor Charlie. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Clearly, we want to drive that statistic down. We want to be as fair as we can to absolutely everybody. And I know you will be driving to do that, Fran, so thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Have we got any more? No more? Oh, Councillor Anne online. Councillor Anne.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Bran. Just one question for me. It's relating to the table you've got on page 71, where you're showing that the education total headcount is 1901. And then in terms of specifically in this table, religion and belief, that the data for 1297 is not non-specific. Is it reasonable to infer, therefore, that although we've made progress and we have made significant progress in data collection, is it around schools that our sort of challenge remains to a large degree if these figures are interpreted correctly?
You're absolutely correct, Councillor Ann. So that is something that we are aiming to look at improving, is focusing on improving the equality data around schools.
So when we did a sort of drive with services in 2024, I think I heard you say, were actually school staff targeted within that 2024 piece of work?
Sorry, I'm just asking Josh for the detail. Yes,
Sorry.
we did send it to schools. The last time we did that survey was 2024, so that is on our to-do list to do at some point. I can't give you a definite date, but at some point during the financial year 26-27. We're just really conscious of balancing the amount of surveys that we are sending out and to staff and not having survey overload. But that is part of our plan to revisit that in 26-27, and as I stress, bearing in mind that every member of staff has the right for every protected characteristic, other than those we require for HMSC, to say that they prefer not to say.
It just seems, looking at it, and I accept your last point completely, it just seems looking at it that I would imagine the response rate from schools was probably low. Obviously, I don't know, but I just expect them to be hard to reach given the sort of the hands-off relationship to a degree. And I just hope that potentially you have more success in terms of how you do it maybe in this next 12 months around schools, because it's a significant amount of people whose data is missing from one particular area of the council's operation. So thanks for that, Fran.
Thank you very much. And next we've got Councillor Cathy online. Councillor Cathy.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I want to make the point that others have made, but just a little bit more clearly, I guess. It's interesting to me that the introduction stated that we all have a certain amount of protected characteristics. I can't argue with that, of course, it's in the legislation. But I just want to point out that it is naive, is probably the best word I can think of, to assume that a 40-year-old straight white married man faces similar challenges to a 20-year-old disabled black single mother, or will be willing to participate in the same way. So when we say we've all got protected characteristics, there is no weighting, as I understand it, in legislation, but in reality and lived experience, there is. And I really think that we should acknowledge that when we're talking about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cathy. Fran?
Yeah, absolutely, Councillor Cathy. Just to clarify, I was merely pointing out the fact. I wasn't in any way inferring that created a level playing field, and absolutely that's the point of our inclusion journey, is to understand those challenges as I'll explain when we come on to in the next report, that the importance of equity, and that's not about fairness, is it? It's about acknowledging that people have different barriers, different lived experience, and how do we provide a level playing field for equal opportunity, which does require adjustments for certain lived experience and certain protected characteristics.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thanks, Jan. It's great to have those 2 points made together at the same time. Thank you.
Diolch, Councillor Cathy. We've got no more speakers, so I've got a couple of questions, please, that I would normally have asked during the pre-meet, but of course I was at the RLDP day. So, my first one was around page 113. We're still we're not focused in on the reason for leavers, are we? I see we've now got all the data, but how soon can we expect that data about reason why people leave Conway in more detail? That's my first question, please.
We do have that data. We have always collected the data in terms of high level understanding, as it says on page 113 of the pack. We have got that data in terms of why people left. Sorry, start again. We have those high level categories of people leaving either voluntary or involuntary, or that high level categories. What I wanted to get to is more detail behind it, some of which is qualitative in having those interviews and being able to assess the nuances as to why people have left. So as I said, that data is coming through. It's still early doors, but I will be hopefully working with the researchers in terms of more of a overall trend as we build that exit interview data to understand sort of nuances beneath those high level categories. I'll try and put my teeth back in now.
Thank you for that. So we look forward to more detail, and because that will help us a lot, won't it, in future employment. So thank you. And my next one, I would still like to see data in this report about staff carers. We have so many of our staff that are carers, and I bring this up repeatedly. I meet with the staff carers, and we have a day for them as well. And I would definitely like to see that data included in future if that's possible. That was my next one. And staff survey, when's that coming to democracy, please? Just for clarity. Thanks.
Yes. In terms of the staff survey, as I think I've mentioned before, we have had pretty much back to back in terms of surveys. So it has been around the capacity of the team. So we are aiming to complete that analysis in March. So just to be clear, if we're completing it in March, I would just need to check with the team whether that means it's coming to democracy in March or whether it means it's coming when the next committee is. But I'll get back to you on that.
Lovely, thanks. If we could circulate, because I think that's a vital bit of information we need. We need to know the how our staff are feeling and coping, and the quicker the better. That's great. So those are the questions I've had. Have we got a proposer and a Councillor Charlie's proposing, Councillor Paul is seconding. Could we open the vote on this item, please? Excellent. Oh, we seem to have lost a member online. Okay. Could we close the vote, please? Yeah, and that is carried unanimously. Yes, some people haven't voted. Okay, thank you very much indeed for that. And we now move on to the final report, the Inclusive Conway Plan Annual Report 2024-2025. This is pages 120 to 158. Councillor Hannah, the Cabinet Member covering HR, is going to introduce the report, and Fran Lewis again, Head of People and Performance, is going to present the report. Diolch. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you. So I am very pleased to introduce this year's Inclusive Conway Plan Annual Report for 24-25. So this highlights work that's taking place across the county to make Conway safe, welcoming and full of opportunity for everyone. It showcases progress made across services to strengthen fairness, accessibility and inclusion for our residents and for our workforce. And it highlights some of the work to come. There's some fascinating examples of progress and projects through the report. They range from coastal engineering to audio-described theatre performances, free school meals at primary level, housing adaptations, active travel routes, targeted youth clubs, food and warm hubs, using the creative arts or poetry for mental wellness, cycling provision, ballet for physical wellness. The list is ongoing and I encourage you to look at it. The report emphasises that inclusion is not a separate project. It is everyone's responsibility in how we lead, make decisions and deliver services every day. The message is simple. Inclusion includes you. I encourage you to take a moment to read the report. It's a strong reminder that even in financially challenging times, fair and inclusive practice strengthens our services, supports better outcomes and helps build the Conway we want to see. We're all aware that when we make our services more inclusive, fairer and more accessible for some, we end up making things better for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Okay, Fran.
Diolch, thanks, Councillor Hannah. Again, just before I go through the high level sort of positive aspects of the Inclusive Conway Plan, because I'm conscious of time, I just wanted to clarify, what do we mean when we talk about DEI? What is diversity, equity and inclusion? Well, diversity is an absolute fact. We all have a sex, a race, a sexual orientation, a belief, and just looking at us all within this room and online, obviously we are diverse in nature because of our different ages, our races, our beliefs. We are diverse. That is a fact. Equity is the acknowledgement that we do not all start from the same place. We don't all have the same opportunities, and therefore through making adjustments we can make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to thrive in Conway. So equity is actually a choice. Inclusion is therefore the action to make equity happen. But as Councillor Anna has just said, inclusion is not a project. It's a culture, it's a mindset. It's about understanding that we are all different and embracing that diversity. So it's a culture and a mindset, not an action plan that we can say we've written and given an update on and therefore job done. And if we can achieve diversity, equity and inclusion, then belonging becomes the outcome. If we can progress as an inclusive organisation, then we truly will be a welcoming organisation where everyone feels, no matter what their background, they do belong. Moving on then to the highlights of the Inclusive Conway annual report. Again, I'd like to thank the team, particularly Josh, in terms of the new layout. Again, it's a huge plan, the Inclusive Conway Plan, and I think this new look version is really accessible, really interesting to read, and therefore more inclusive and accessible in its nature. So thank you for doing that, and I think it's a model we'll be looking at for other annual reports. So What are the key updates? We have been fortunate, as I said before, in gaining some grant funding. It is short term, so we do still have capacity and sustainability issues in terms of progressing inclusion. We're at the early stages of understanding the workforce and looking at how we can remove the barriers from recruitment. We've been doing a huge amount of work in terms of connecting with our colleagues and the community. As we've said earlier, you know, everyone's experiences matter, and listening to people's real life stories is so important to understand what works well and where we need to improve. There's been some great progress here. We now have an Inclusive Conway staff network, and we have an LGBTQ plus staff network, and we're hoping that these networks will grow. They're very much staff led, so it's about what staff would like to see, such as we also have a menopause chat staff network as well. And we're starting to build a wider network outside the organisation as well, making sure that we're really connecting with community members and ensuring that we're listening and providing them with the opportunity to share their perspectives, finding ways to support each other and really helping shape the way that we work. As I mentioned before, we've really been focusing on understanding, and our approach to learning is absolutely vital here. Appreciate that learning doesn't have to happen in a training room. It's about our general curiosity and willingness to learn and understand different perspectives. But we have started to develop an incremental blended learning offer, and it's really been a delight to see the growth in this area. That's included the introduction to Inclusive Conway sessions, our Gypsy Roma Traveller awareness sessions, anti-sexual harassment training, and introduction to racism awareness. And we've also got online learning opportunities such as our Coaching Cultures Diversity and Inclusion modules and the Social Care Wales Anti-Racism Interactive e-learning. As with every other area and every other service, we have mentioned about the financial pressures. Conway does have significant financial pressures, but I wanted to highlight here the importance of inclusion. Inclusion is actually part of the solution. We know from data that more diverse and inclusive organisations are much more likely to improve in terms of their performance. 80% of the world's top companies have actively looked at demographic diversity and inclusion to boost performance and spark creativity. And statistically, companies with significantly more demographic diversity are 35% more likely to outperform competitors because of richer perspectives. So we can't underestimate that in terms of inclusion. It brings a rich perspective, it brings ideas and creativity, so it's part of our solution. Making sure our services are fair, appropriate and inclusive for our current and future community is really important. It's making sure everyone gets equal opportunities and the support they need, and that in turn contributes to a resilient and resourceful community. This, combined with an inclusive approach to recruitment, progression and retention, will ensure we have a workforce equipped to deliver high quality services in the face of these financial challenges. In terms of updates from the services, I won't go over them in detail, but you can see from the plan that there is a collective ownership and understanding across services in terms of their responsibility, that inclusion includes you, and services have highlighted a great deal of work that has been taking place throughout the year that we can be really proud of. But what we want to ensure is that is the norm for all services, that it's part of our mindset to be inclusive. It's really important to focus on positives, but we don't want to sugarcoat the enormous challenge ahead of us. There is a huge journey that the authority needs to go on in terms of our priority of inclusion. In terms of emerging work, we are going to refocus the inclusive Conway plan, a bit like the work that's been done on the corporate plan. We want to make sure that it's more focused, that it's something that everyone understands and can sign up to and own. So we plan to refocus on 4 key areas: learning and development, expected behaviours, working with our wider community, and our policies and practices. We also want to make sure that we build on our shared understanding and collective responsibility and tackle areas of silo working. And really looking at our approach to equality impact assessments and making sure that we are working with the wider community on those. There are challenges for us. As I said, we've had short-term grant funding. The sustainability and capacity of delivering on such a huge area of work is not without its challenges, and we really could do with additional capacity to drive this forward. And also acknowledging, as I said, that this is about a cultural shift, and that takes time. We have made some early progress, but we don't yet have that consistency across all services. And what we really want to focus on is ensuring that we have a workforce and elected members with that collective understanding and confidence to challenge discriminatory or exclusionary behaviour and embody positive and inclusive behaviours. I won't read it out, but I'm sure members have all read the plan, but hopefully the conclusion and the next steps sum it up really. We're gaining traction. We've still got a huge amount of work to do, but we're hoping through our learning journey and through refocusing our inclusive Conway plan, we'll start to shift the mindset and the culture of the organisation in a positive way forward. So just to conclude, remember that inclusion is not a one-off project. It's an ongoing responsibility, and inclusion includes you.
Thank you very much for that, Fran. Okay, members, so our first speaker is Councillor Gronway online, then Councillor Paul in the chamber. Councillor Gronway.
Thank you, and hopefully I won't lose connection. I've been losing connection on and off, but thank you, Fran, for the report. And as you say, we're on the journey, but there's a matter of resources and a lot to do. I was at the LGA Independent AGM in Leeds over the weekend, and there was a lot of talk about inclusiveness and engaging with our communities. And one of the presentations was about the council network. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but this is, where's the camera? It's a council, it's about knowledge or sharing knowledge. So the toolkits are out there. Sometimes we don't have to always invent the wheel ourselves as an authority. And these are some of the information I brought back from that conference. I'm happy to share with Fran or whoever. But this was about knowledge shared between staff within our authority, within staff across the whole of the UK, which problems arise in different areas. And this is an easy way of learning from other people's experiences. There was also a presentation from a data information using IT to inform our citizens of far more easy ways of connecting to the authority. It was called Citizens Concierge. I also brought the information back on that. That one is a one where you have to contribute towards using the service. It's called Data Whisper. But certainly the council network is free, and that is one I think we do need to look at. It's about learning from experience, as I say, of other authorities and sharing best practice. So I'll happily share that with Fran or whoever is in line with communicating with our citizens. So thank you.
Dear Councillor Gronway, that's very interesting. Does anyone, Councillor Hannah, Fran, anyone want to come back on that? No? Okay. Councillor
Very
Hannah.
positive. I'll be interested to see what Councillor Gronway's got there. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, we've got Councillor Paul in the chamber.
Yeah, I suppose I wanted to step my comments, and I think Fran's comments on both these reports were very helpful. Yeah, it's helpful at the start. But in terms of context and in the very heightened political discourse at the moment, I just wanted to reflect for a moment on the Grammy Awards last night, and a young singer called Olivia Dean, who was actually celebratory about being a granddaughter of an immigrant. And in a sense, when you see and hear, and I heard that on the radio, her comments, it was really quite moving, because I think, again, that movement will be led in large part by younger people. Not that I shouldn't contribute, but I do think since I arrived in Conway, I have contributed in my own way to this whole debate. But it does seem to me it's still difficult to challenge discrimination in Conway, and I can only talk about my own experience, and there'll be other councillors online or in this room who've experienced similar experiences. It's not easy to challenge officers or politicians where you have to call them out on what they're saying. It's not easy because you've got to have the right statements and approach to do that. And whether it's you just raise your discomfort about what's being said, or are more explicit and even more assertive. It's not an easy thing to do. And I know from my own experience where I've challenged people, and I'm not just talking about race here, I'm talking on discrimination as well, particularly have memories. You can get a very strong pushback, and you can experience some grief yourself. And I can think particularly of one piece of casework I was pursuing, which went all the way up to the chief exec and back down and around. I still bear the scars of that process. So let's not assume in tackling discrimination it's easy for us, but we must call it out when we see it. And I suppose my question is, because I think we do need to do more, I would call it more coaching than training work, because I think there's a tremendous spectrum of people we employ, and people on that spectrum. I also think in terms of children and young people, there's lots of positives. I'm a governing body of a secondary school. They have an LGBTQ plus group of children, and that's great. But I know when I was coaching my own children on how to call people out, and I'm sure they'll be doing the same with their own grandchildren, we do need to provide not just that coaching, but then the support to ensure it happens. And I'm finding a lot of this online training it doesn't hit the button at all. I think you've got to do in-person training and support. And I would say this not just on the equality issues, I would say it on safeguarding, all sorts of issues, because it feels like a tick box, and there's always hassle with the connections and everything, and some people are more digitally challenged than others and all of that. So I would encourage, and I know it's all about funding, more in-person coaching and training, because I think that's how we will make more difference. And I'd like, therefore, to ask the question, how are we going to go about doing this person-to-person training and support, really?
Thanks, Councillor Paul. Quite a lot to unpack there. I'll try and remember. Start with the last point. I think you're absolutely right, and I think I said it in my introduction that I don't think e-learning is the solution. Neither is the in-person training, although we do have in-person training starting again today that I mentioned earlier. There's 3 different learning opportunities for staff throughout February and March for in-person training on different aspects of inclusive Conwy. But I think that's why it's important that we acknowledge that this is about a cultural shift and a mindset about our own personal responsibility to learn, to undertake our own personal development. And that doesn't always happen in a classroom. It can be as simply as spending time with different communities and just chatting to different people and understanding their different perspectives. So we are challenged in terms of the capacity of the team and the finances of the team. Our team is very small, as is our budget, and I think we're doing our utmost to maximise grants where we can. But this very much comes from the need for leadership from the senior management team, leadership from elected members as well, in terms of promoting the importance of inclusion and as I said earlier, understanding that the creativity and the enrichment it can bring when we acknowledge and welcome each other's differences. In terms of your comments about people on the spectrum, we have also undertaken training in terms of neurodiversity, and we are working on a policy to reflect neurodiversity as well. But again, they're not standalone things. They need to be embedded across every aspect of the authority, which is why we want to review the Inclusive Conwy Plan and simplify the process. Our corporate plan says that inclusion underpins everything, and we just need to refocus that plan to make sure that it does. In terms of calling out discrimination, absolutely, and also I agree, it is a challenge. That's why we have been relooking at our anti-harassment policy for exactly that reason. We want it to be clear that we are a supportive organisation, that front and foremost is the well-being of those individuals who have suffered trauma. So we are looking at that and simplifying that approach at the moment. But our focus always has to be on the prevention. We don't want to be just mopping up when something has happened. So the prevention of harassment is absolutely paramount as well. But I don't think it's just about calling it out. We've also been talking just last week about the importance of calling it in. So sometimes, whilst absolutely we don't want to brush things under the carpet, but sometimes those moments of learning can be sympathetically just talking to someone to say, actually, I just want you to reflect on what's just happened, and doing that in a safe way to say, you know, what you've just said or the way that you've just acted is inappropriate, and calling that in is just as important for people's learning. It's a complex area, and it's a cliche to say it's a journey, but it is, and we don't underestimate the amount of work that collectively we all need to do.
Can I just come back very quickly?
Very quickly.
And I did share a couple of these stories, really, conversations I'd had recently. One with a Bangladeshi woman and one with a Kurdish man, and they were seeking some advice and information from me. And what I came away from those quite uncomfortable conversations was that our route, and I had to admit this, I did identify a number of officers that they could contact, you know, named officers, but I was very conscious that the Bangladeshi woman was talking on behalf of some aspects of her community and the Kurdish man on some aspects of his. And I was thinking, in terms of engagement with these different communities, do we have a named person that we should suggest, or is their approach, because I did pick up, and I pick this up so often, people are fearful of getting in touch with their local authority because they don't quite know what the consequences might be. And therefore, it would be helpful, I think, if we have a named, I would call them engagement officer also, because on both the issues they were raising with me, one was to do with the whole world of benefit and advice and support, and the other was finding community spaces to meet. If there was a named engagement officer, that person again, you know, no wrong door sort of approach would be a possible way in. So are we thinking about that, or maybe that isn't a good approach? I don't know, but.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Fran?
We don't have a dedicated engagement officer, and I think that would be very challenging. That's why we have a customer service, an information service, because with such a broad range of services for one individual to be a point of contact, I think we'd have a retention issue very, very quickly. I appreciate what you're saying, though. It's about how can we make sure that we are a welcoming organisation. That's the crux of it. It's the culture, isn't it? That no matter what your background, if you're approaching the authority for help, you feel safe to do so. And that's part of our journey. In terms of approaching the authority, then obviously we do have the customer and information team, but we're also trying to think of the right term. I wouldn't say revitalising, but strengthening the participation network across the authority. So there are participation leads across a variety of services, as there should be, because it depends what help you need as to who's the best person to speak to. So that participation network has sort of had a bit of a refresh to make sure we're not working in silos, and that we are sharing ideas and feedback on engagement. That is more on the strategic side, though, rather than the operational side. So I think that touches on a point that Amanda raised earlier about the customer work stream under the resilience programme, that absolutely will be focusing on our approach to customer service and accessibility.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, both. Councillor Charlie in the chamber next.
Thanks for this report. I really enjoyed reading it. So congratulations to Josh in the way that it was laid out. Having all the hyperlinks there was really useful. It was a bit like a TikTok hole for councillors. But no, I thought that was really, really useful. I absolutely agree with Fran what you're saying about the demonstrable benefits of being a more inclusive organisation, and it is absolutely something that you have to constantly look in the same way as safeguarding's every business. You can never get to a stage you think, oh, we've done that now, because challenges change, your own opinions change, and constantly have to reassess this. So I think it's really useful. That comes back every year. There's a huge amount of stuff we are doing there, but like safeguarding, it's exactly that. It's something we have to keep constantly going over and over and over. But I thank you and all your officers for all the fantastic work you're doing. So, on that basis, if it's not been moved, Chair, I'd like to move the recommendation 2.1, please.
Dear Councillor Charlie, thank you. Okay, next we've got Councillor Cathy online.
Thanks very much, and thanks to Josh for such a detailed report, for collating all the positive work, as other people have said. I'm really glad that Fran pointed out that we're at the start of a huge journey. You also mentioned 4 key areas. So I've looked at the executive summary, and I wonder if those 4 key areas are labelled 1 to 4 or A to D. You've also talked about clarify, communicate, and simplify. I think that would be absolutely brilliant. And then you went into an explanation of necessary adjustments to promote inclusion. Absolutely right. And I just wonder how much we would be doing anyway and how much we are doing that is additional. So what is Inclusive Conwy all about? Is it about stuff we would do anyway, like having cycle paths? Or is it something additional that we're doing to promote inclusion? In terms of training, I want to echo what Councillor Paul said about coaching. And I also want to point out that we're hoping for curiosity and willingness to learn, but there are some people who just aren't interested and won't go to any of these training sessions. Will we make them mandatory? How do we mop up people that we know aren't interested in coming along? So to me, the report reads as a broad collection of various really positive inputs. But we're at different stages of maturity, and it doesn't feel like a cohesive approach in terms of delivery or measurement. So I wondered if that was being developed, and if so, based on what methodology or framework. I've also raised the fact with Fran, Hannah, and some others about potential use of the anti-racist maturity matrix, and also how CCBC is engaging with the update to the public sector equalities duty. These both provide concrete frameworks for action and outcomes. And I shared those in the spirit that Goronwy has just shared some information he's received. So I'd like a response to that. And there's quite a lot there. So I look forward to an answer or picking some of this up offline. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cathy. Fran?
Yeah, happy to have a chat, Councillor Cathy, because I'm not sure I've captured all your points, but I'll do my utmost. So in terms of the review of Inclusive Conwy, yes, it is A to D in the executive summary. So we want to refocus on learning and development, behaviours, working with our wider community and really looking at our policies and practices. So in that respect, when we undertake that analysis, and you're quite right, looking at our maturity in different aspects, that will generate new actions as to what we need to do to improve. But I think what's really key is that inclusivity isn't seen as a standalone plan. That's the whole point. It's about embedding this mindset and culture across everything that we do, so that when you are undertaking a new piece of work, you are considering those sort of four pillars of the Inclusive Conwy plan. In terms of training, the e-learning modules are mandatory, but as I said, I don't see that. I worry about just saying if we've got 100% compliance on e-learning modules, that job done, that's not going to work for us. So we are looking at the wider training, and I'm working on another piece of work in terms of our training analysis. So exactly your point, Councillor Cathy. I want to be able to provide that, certainly operational data, not necessarily too much detail for democracy, but to be able to provide that detail to heads of service in terms of if there are pockets where actually the learning and development is really not being taken up. But I don't think making it mandatory is necessarily the answer. We need to look at that analysis and look at the best way to ensure that all staff are learning. And as you all know, that's a challenge in terms of frontline staff. So there's got to be different ways of looking at this, depending on whether you're by a computer or if you're out in the community. In terms of our approach for the Inclusive Conwy plan, then absolutely we'll be looking at an outcomes-based methodology, as we have done with the corporate plan, and looking at our maturity. And that's why we particularly are saying that in terms of learning, that needs to be an incremental approach. For example, there's no point saying let's do anti-racism training if we don't understand what racism is. So it's doing that incremental approach to learning as well. And in terms of the Anti-Racist Wales Action Plan, absolutely, as I said before, 2 areas of priority for us are looking at anti-racism and looking at disability, because of course we want to look at all protected characteristics, but statistically these are 2 areas that we know we need to improve, and that's not to the detriment of other protected characteristics, but you have to have priority areas. So we do have an anti-racism staff working group, and again looking forward at the best approach for Conwy. So looking at what's right for Conwy in terms of focusing on our understanding of racism and then moving to anti-racism. I'm sorry, might have forgotten something, but hopefully that covered your points.
Yeah, there was one more thing, and this is great that Jane, I hope, is still here, having taken up the lead for Scrutiny. The public sector equalities duty, legal requirement for all public authorities, is looking at a new framework for scrutiny. So I think I wrote to you, Fran, and Hannah and others, and said that I'd attended that. It was really handy. Councillor Paul was also there and had mentioned it. There are follow-ups. There was a follow-up for officers. I did wonder if we had sent anyone. I don't know if we did, because I didn't get a response. But that is ongoing work that I think would be quite helpful in terms of a framework for us. We seem to have lots of different measures. And so I'd go back to the clarity, communications and simplify that you mentioned. And I think that would be extremely welcome to have that clarity. And also the other point that I had made was, what would we be doing anyway? And what are we doing additionally as Inclusive Conwy? Because the report is full of wonderful, uplifting and inspiring examples, as Councillor Charlie said, and I totally agree with that. But how much of that is really about an additional piece of work?
Thank you, Councillor Cathy. As it's Jane's first day in the job, I think we'll let her get her feet under the table first, and
oh no, it was just to point Jane at that.
Absolutely.
It was to ask her a question.
Yeah, but she is here, don't you worry, diligently taking notes of everything, so thank you. Fran, was there anything you wanted to add there, or do you want to speak to Councillor Cathy outside of the meeting?
It's probably conscious of time that pick it up outside the meeting. Would be lovely to have a chat.
Dear, thank you for that, Councillor Cathy. Thank you, Fran. And before we go to the next speaker, have we got a seconder for Councillor Charlie's proposal? Councillor Paul, excellent. Thank you. My glamorous assistant here has just prompted me there. Next, Councillor Anne online.
Thanks, Chair. And I'll try and keep this quite short, because a lot of things have been mentioned already. I mean, I'm focusing on page 128 and our areas of focus, 4 areas of focus, and I really welcome the sort of underpinning desire to make this clear and make it sort of simple, really. And for me, within that, I'm really delighted to see expected behaviours, which is point B, and the comment that this is fundamental towards moving forwards, because Fran is absolutely right. We need a cultural shift, do we not? And that's a cultural shift both for the organisation and for us as individuals. And therefore that does mean about personal behaviour, both in and out of work, and also the sort of role modelling that's going on in terms of the leadership and sort of coaching sort of roles of the people who are in leadership sort of roles. I do wonder if it's an opportunity, and I'm not sure what we have there already, but there's a danger that sometimes if you just do this in a non-integrated way and it's all about DEI and rather than integrated into service, because it's about personal interactions and organisational interactions. My sort of query really, and what I seek assurance on is about how will we embed it in the sort of our existing sort of people processes, so it becomes a way of life to have conversations of this nature around how we're dealing with each other, how we're dealing with the public, both in a service and in a sort of an equity and sort of inclusiveness way. So, you know, I don't know if there's a quick answer to that, Fran, you've touched upon it, but I would really like to see this and have the assurance that it's an integrated approach, because I think from reviewing back in the day some of our customer feedback, a lot of our customer complaints, a lot of them got sort of, I don't know, sort of shortened, condensed, just because we started to say, well, let's take out service complaints and so on. And there was a lot in there that was about the culture of how people were dealt with, that people take exception to. So I think this is a real opportunity to do it in an integrated way. I just, if you get any additional comments on that, thanks.
Yeah, only to say that obviously is the goal. To make sure that this becomes the norm, just part of our culture, to ensure that we are, you know, being inclusive. But as I said before, I think it would be naive of me to say that just by rewriting a plan and simplifying it is job done. It has to come from a collective responsibility, a drive from senior leaders, both officers and elected members, to embed a positive and inclusive culture across the organisation, and that will take time, and it's one of those things that can't necessarily be brought down to a measure. I think we're on the same page in terms of data, Councillor Anne, but it's also accepting that some things can't be measured. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a focus for us this next financial year, of simplifying the plan, because we strongly believe by doing that it will help everyone to understand what inclusion is really about, and our particular priorities around anti-racism and disabilities.
So just maybe a supplementary question, Fran. Are we, in terms of behavioural conversations in the way that we're talking about here, is this going to be starting from scratch, or is this on top of a really embedded process that currently talks about behaviours of other types? That's probably where I'm really looking at in terms of the integration. So just a quick few words on that would be helpful.
In terms of behaviours, that's something in terms of setting the standard on expected behaviours. We've been doing work on this, starting through social partnership with our trade union colleagues, and working that through, and that's currently with the Chief Executive. And absolutely setting the standards and expected behaviours will be brought forward through discussions with staff, because it's not something you want to impose, it's something you want to talk through and share with staff, and that will go to complement our existing values across the authority. So it is something that, from an HR perspective, of course, we've always had clarity as to excuse me, what expected behaviours are from a HR perspective, but this is much more about looking at it from I guess a more inclusive angle and softer angle as to how we expect behaviours to be embedded across the authority. So it's an additional piece of work on behaviours that we're bringing forward.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Thank you. We haven't got any more speakers. What a shame that our member of the Conway Youth Council wasn't here today. They'd have brought an awful lot to this debate, both in lived experience and the perspective of a young person dealing with Conway. Just quick points there, Fran. The comments again need the cabinet member's name against it. If we could do that next time, that would have been great. and some general comments. Excellent report, thank you. We have to be very careful, don't we, always, that we don't leave the elderly and the disabled behind in moves for everything to go online and different things like that. We need to be so mindful of that, and also please more emphasis on carers and their needs and how we include them in everything, because this county wouldn't run without our unpaid carers. So another plea with that, as I say, to make sure we don't leave people behind in any shape or form. So thank you very much for that, everybody. Really good debate. We've had a proposer and a seconder. Could we open the voting, please? Could everyone online vote? And again, I think that's everyone. I know people are having connectivity problems. Could we close the vote, please? Thank you very much, and that is passed. Well, thank you, members, and officers. A really good meeting today, and welcome to Councillor Emily to this committee now today, and thank Councillor Mandy for her work. It would be ever so good if we could actually have a meeting with all the same personnel, but hopefully we're settled now going forward. So thank you very much, everyone, and apologies again for the technical hitches. We will be making sure that is ironed out, because I don't want this to happen again. Okay, diolch everyone. Have a good day.